Dana White. We are going to talk off the top. We discussed this on Monday, the incident from New Year's Eve, where he is seen slapping his wife. And this has gained quite a bit of attention. What have you seen, Wei, in terms of the coverage, both within the MMA space or just at large? It was pretty notable tonight that I heard of no advertising for Power Slap throughout the broadcast on Dynamite. Apparently on the TBS site, if you even click on the link for the show, that it's not even going to a description of anything. So, I mean, we were kind of looking at on Monday of whether this thing can happen or not. I really don't see how you can move forward with this Power Slap thing, and this could go much higher than that. But just some of your overall what you have seen. Has this become a bigger story since Monday?
It's been bigger than I expected. I mean, I can't help but be cynical when it comes to very powerful figures and their ability to get away with the worst things out there. And I thought this was kind of be the same for Dana White, who, has already kind of built a bit of a reputation for himself as somebody who's not a great person, in my opinion. And as far as, his I don't know, public stances on a lot of things. And therefore I mean, even in this story, you'll get a lot of people defending the actions, which, are inexcusable.
I think it's horrific to see the amount of people that have come to Dana's defense, especially when Dana is not even necessarily defending himself, like in that video. Like say what you will about Dana White, it was not as though he was disputing anything in this video, and yet there is an army of people that are more than happy to just make defenses here of Dana White. I think it reflects very poorly on a segment of the MMA audience, of just people at large, that Dana White has attracted, that you get this kind of response from it as well. In terms of responses from any kind of major players, UFC and Endeavor have not issued any comment yet. Reporter Trent Rainsmith did contact ESPN, and the one-line response he got was, ESPN does the distribution and UFC produces the content. So they completely punted on this controversy and are not weighing in on it in any form or fashion. I reached out to TBS. I've not heard any response yet from them regarding the status of Power Slap and if they have any comment on this situation. It would seem, Way, that there is the idea of hoping that they can wait this thing out and that this blows over. This did break on Monday night, which, just by coincidence coincided with the injury on the Monday Night Football game. And that became the focus of the entire sports world and beyond that. But this, it is a story. It's being covered by a lot of main outlets. But I think the idea here is that hopefully we can just get through this. But as you can see in what you've pulled up here, the Endeavor stock, it did drop nearly 6% on Tuesday. I looked today and the stock was up 3% from the day before, but still down from when this story first broke. And that is where you will see, there will be reaction there if there is an effect on Endeavor's stock from this story.
Really, it feels like, the stocks are kind of the only, real measure of significant
it's gross,
change.
Way. Like it's I don't need a lesson on how corporate governance works, but all of these places, it's like, are they dismayed and disgusted by this action? It's, well, what is the price we're going to pay? Because in a perfect world, we can just skirt through this and move past it. It's only what money could this cost us? And then we will act. There's been no apologies over this. There's been no explanation for this. It's just treated as like, what's the damage that we have to undergo here? And
to be fair, the apology came from Dana himself in his own video.
I mean, in terms of looking at any of these companies taking any kind of responsibility or putting something out that, hey, we do not we do not condone this kind of action. This is horrible. We are going to take some kind of action because we cannot have a figure representing our company at such a high level out there slapping his wife and us being silent as though this will be tolerated.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's called into question, I think ESPN's own coverage of it all. Of course, with their connections to the UFC and everything. But it's gotten a lot more press than I expected in mainstream sources. Like even in Canada, the CBC and the Toronto Star, for instance. So
The Associated Press covered this today, so a lot of papers are picking it
oh,
up
there you go.
from the
Yeah,
AP covering it.
including this. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that to me is certainly significant. And if you're strictly speaking from the perspective of the show we're about to cover, if you're TBS and about to promote a show called Dana White's Power Slap, okay, I just it is. I don't mean to laugh about this, but it is just the circumstance surrounding this is pretty much the worst thing you can promote associated with Dana White and the name of this particular league and organization. Um, I I really have to imagine there was going to be some integration of the promotion of this show tonight. If not on the body of AEW Dynamite, then within the commercial breaks, we got none of that. I have to think that in some way that was a response to all of this.
I would say the absolute best case scenario is a significant delay of this, that this series is shot, and maybe we'll look at this again in the fall if this is something that is less of a controversy. Then I would be stunned at this point if that show drops next week. I'm not going to be watching a second of this thing regardless, but I don't know if anybody will be watching a second of this, because I don't think they're going to have that option. That would be my guess of how this goes, and just the lack of promotion tonight. TBS and Warner Brothers would be the laughing stock of every corner of media if they were to just go ahead with this. I mean, this is a series that it does not make or break them by any stretch. This is not anything that is going to save their network or is so vital to
do
go
we know
through.
though? But the question is, like, are there contractual obligations that say that they
I
have
can
to?
almost guarantee you that there is a basic standard morals clause in any deal that would allow a network out of airing something like this. I do not believe that there would be any substantive contract that they could be held to air a man that has been seen slapping his wife in public, promoting a slap fight league.
Yeah.
I just can't see this happening.
Well, I have to imagine you'll get some sort of announcement, in the days to come, if that is indeed the case. But if not, then maybe it's business as usual.
How does this position the UFC to its audience and to the public if this is something where maybe Dana White is maybe not front and center for the next month, but quietly is right back to his role? Like, I do believe that, like, how, and sadly, like, there will be another case of a UFC fighter involved in a domestic violence incident. Like, that will,
John, we're not to get ahead of ourselves, but we're about to talk about pretty
we're
bad.
about to talk about something, but not a contracted UFC fighter. My argument is that when something like this happens again, how can you possibly take action against a fighter when you are going to allow this to go unchecked if you just do
Just
nothing?
will, dude. Are you kidding me? That you're talking about whether or not there's a double standard when it comes to the people in positions of power versus their employees. I mean, they just will, and they will get away with it. But it's the broader media coverage and especially its effect on a stock that to me are going to be the bigger forces of change, if any.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very it's a very sobering analysis that you provide, but one that I can't argue with. That is, for a lot of these incidents, it's the next controversy will occur. People will move on from it, and Dana White is a very powerful figure. And I don't think any of these companies, I don't think they want to jeopardize the success of a Dana White, and they're hoping that this will go away. This was a very just coordinated handling, just in the fact that you had TMZ just hold him by the hand during this interview, where you had the interview and the response ready to go with the video. I mean, I don't know all the the timeline of events here, how TMZ, they probably got this footage, reached out, and you do reach out to the parties involved, but this was like, if you watch that interview, like, they were hardly grilling this guy. It was, as much as it was a close friend of theirs that just had a lapse in judgment while he was fueled by alcohol.
Right.
I thought it reflected poorly in that sense. But I mean, yeah, for Dana White, it was a damage control interview, and one where I think in that interview, he can tell the severity of like what this is. I mean, you have that, he was very vocal in the past about like, that is something you cannot come back from, is putting your hand on a woman. And he pointed that out himself. I mean, he is not leaving anything to be dug up and thrown against him. I mean, he just is kind of, hey, I will face the music on this, but I'm not denying it. I mean, you can't deny it. It's right there in front of your face.
And should he not be the one to pull himself out voluntarily, following his own words?
I don't think you are going to see Dana White voluntarily remove himself. I think it would be the case of, Endeavor. I don't believe, I said on Monday how like Disney, how will they react? Given that statement from ESPN, I mean, I think ESPN, like you look at that, like they will not, like at the very least, to put out something that we do not condone this in any way. Instead, it's, we just distribute the product. They produce the content. That's it. That's the whole line that they had to say. Nothing from UFC, nothing from Endeavor. This is, if anything, it's the stock that's going to impact Endeavor. And if this thing rebounds back up and the stocks gets back to its levels of Monday, then it's smooth sailing for us and we'll just move on. But I think it reflects very poorly, and I think that it's certainly something that we are going to see if Dana White can truly get past this. This is a giant blemish on Dana White as an individual, and his career, in my mind.
Yeah, whether or not Dana White publicly survives this, I mean, I'm less sort of like optimistic that anything long term really happens to him. But in the immediate, fallout of this, to me, like the power slapping is going to be directly affected, being so close and so directly attached to the topic here.